Welcome back guys for another tutorial video. I'm Cortezat with Thunder Gaming League, and this week I'll be teaching you all I know about Darius, the Hand of Noxus. Starting off with runes, you'll see I run flat armor pen marks and quints, flat armor seals, and flat magic resist glyphs. This gives you that sustain that you need in lane while being able to pull off huge damage early game. Now I'm not set on the glyphs and quints, so you can change them up depending on your playstyle. Some runes I might suggest would be movement speed quints to get in and out of your Q harass, and from ganks when you need to, since Darius doesn't have any escapes. This might be the best choice to start off with. And for glyphs, you could run cooldown reduction to get your abilities off more to stack hemorrhage more quickly. Now going over masteries, I prefer early damage over early game tankiness. That's why I will always run 2190 on Darius. These masteries are set up so you're able to put that huge damage out while you're still having that survivability to keep you in lane. Also, having that point in Executioner will let you make huge presence in lane. If you're not comfortable with just 9 in defense tree, or you know you're going up against a heavy CC lane and jungle, go 9-21-0, taking 2 points in tough skin and then indomitable. Or if you're running movement speed quints, go initiator instead. Doing either of these will help you either take less damage in lane or help you get away from early ganks while you're being able to get in and out to get that farm you need. Time to talk about Darius. Darius is a heavy hitting bruiser that scales well early to mid game, then falls just a little short late game. Being able to deal huge amounts of damage and with the ability to finish off low health enemies makes him a significant threat in team fights. Some of his faults though is that he is prone to heavy harassment from ranged characters, and with no escape abilities leaves him vulnerable to ganks. Going over Darius' abilities, starting off with his passive hemorrhage. Every time Darius attacks or uses an ability on an enemy, it causes them to bleed. This effect stacks up to 5 times and can be accompanied by his ult to do the most damage possible. Moving on to Decimate, Darius swings his axe in a circle dealing 70, 105, 140, 175, 210, plus 0.7 physical scaling and physical damage to all nearby enemies in the circle. Champions in the outer half of the ability that are struck take an additional 50% damage. This move will be your main harass and will allow you to deal huge damage at early levels. Just remember the damage comes from the outer half of the strike, so using it up close and personal will do less damage and can be a determining factor of you losing or winning a fight. Going over Crippling Strike, Darius empowers his next basic attack to deal an additional 120, 140, 160, 180, 200% of his attack power, and slows the target's movement and attack speed by 20, 25, 30, 35, 40% for 2 seconds. Also, Crippling Strike's base cooldown is reduced by 1 second for every stack of hemorrhage on the target. Crippling Strike will also help out a lot when you pull in champions towards you, reducing their attack speed, which will allow you to prolong the fight as you take less damage. Hopping on over to Apprehend. Apprehend's passive grants 5, 10, 15, 20, 25% armor penetration per level, and upon activation, he will pull all of his enemies in front of him, towards him. This ability will be your bruiser killer and distant closer. Putting a level in this at level 4 and leveling it last will give you an advantage over other bruisers all game. Lastly, Noxian Guillotine. Darius sleeps to a target champion, dealing 160, 250 to 340 plus 0.75 physical scaling and true damage. For each stack of hemorrhage, Noxian Guillotine deals an additional 20% damage. And what makes this ability is that you can when you kill a champion with Noxian Guillotine, the cooldown will be refreshed. Timing on this ability is crucial. Always stay aware of how many hemorrhage stacks are on your target, because by not having enough hemorrhage stacks on your target to kill them could determine a team fight. Now going over building Darius. Now for my recommended core build, I suggest Ninja Tail or Merc Treads, depending on who is doing well on the enemy team or what's happening in your lane, whether it's hard CC, magic damage, or heavy ganks. For your first base item, start building a Frozen Mallet. Or if your lane opponent is AD heavy and you need the extra boost in survivability, grab a Wriggles Lantern and build Frozen Mallet afterwards. Next, build a Randuin's Omen or Banshee's Veil, depending on how big the enemy AP or AD damage is, or how well the AD carry is doing. Lastly, build an Amma's Impaler for a damage boost mid to late game and the extra armor. The last slots are open to change depending on how the enemy champions are doing, and the physical reference for the build will be down in the description below. Going over the starting items, you want to grab Boots of Speed and 3 health pots for the sustain and in and out power for harass and farm. Starting Dorn's Blade will not benefit you as much in my opinion, for if you make a mistake to take too much damage, you won't have that sustain and be forced to back, making you lose farm and experience. Now for the first and second time you back, I suggest grabbing a Philo Stone for the first time and Heart of Gold for the second. This will allow you to have that gold advantage or allow you to keep up with the gold if things aren't going well. An added perk to this you will already have an item for Randuin's Omen later on. Also remember to grab wards or enough money for wards and potions for each of these teleports back to base. When backing for the third time, you should have enough money to grab a Phage or a Wriggle's Lantern, depending on your lane opponent and how much you are getting harassed. Grab the Phage if harass and ganks are small, so you can set up kills and allied ganks better. Or grab Wriggle's Lantern if harass and ganks are high. Going on from there, you will finish your core build into the late game. Next, I'm going to talk about laning phase and making lane presence with Darius. Starting with the boots and 3 health pots will help you get in and out for the farm and harass without taking too much counter harass or damage. This will also allow you to zone the enemy away from caster minions and sometimes even melee minions, allowing you to last hit freely. Now, if the opponent is zoned to the point where he is forced to farm on turret, they'll sometimes risk taking harass to grab melee or caster minions in the middle of the lane. Take advantage of this with Decimate to make them think twice about farming. Now, if you are zoning them to the turret, make sure you have wards in the river, otherwise you'll basically be saying, please kill me, or make me waste my flash, please. So, place wards based on how far you are pushing or zoning, whether it's at the trisection of the blue and river, or the river brush. To make lane presence with Darius is fairly simple. Your priority will be able to use Decimate at max range when they try to farm for maximum damage. Using bush control with Apprehend while waiting for the lane to push back to the middle or farther to your side while still getting last hits of course, will allow you to assert lane presence during the wait. Now some champions such as Xin or Riven will try to assert their lane presence by committing to a fight early. This is where Darius fails, so don't try to fight it. Kite around their skills while aiming the outer circle of Decimate to damage them at the same time. Lanes like these will be long, and patience will be needed to assert lane presence. Buying the Wriggle's Lantern will help out with these lanes as well. Also running Ignite, and with the bleed damage on your Hemorrhage, will hopefully allow you to gain lane presence by some early kills. Trying to force kills, whether you get the kill and die at the same time, or just die, could potentially hurt your lane game. Your late game, depending on how well your laning opponent scales late game. Now, team fighting with Darius. Darius benefits most while he is with his team. Always remember that Darius has the ability to quicken a champion's death with his ultimate, making teamfights drastically easier. Try to always focus the champion your team is focusing, or AD carry or AP. This will let you kill the focused champion as quickly as possible, allowing you to focus the next one. Circling around teamfights is sometimes necessary to pull AD or AP carries from the fight. Also, staying somewhere in between the middle of the teamfight and the outskirts of it will allow you to use Decimate to your full advantage. Lastly, pay attention in teamfights on how many hemorrhage stacks enemies have while trying to proc hemorrhage as many times as you possibly can, to ult as many times as you possibly can. Now for some quick tips and a review. Remember to always hit the enemy with the outer part of Decimate. Decimate is your biggest tool to make that lane presence. So if you're only hitting with the inner part of Decimate, you're going to have a much harder time in lane. Always remember to look at how much max damage your ultimate can do, and how many stacks of hemorrhage are on your target. Every block of a champion's health represents 100 health, so keep that in mind. Darius will always benefit most when he's with his team. So if you sense a team fight is about to happen, or your team asks you to group, go with them. Darius is prone to kiting and head-on fights, so be careful where you position yourself in lane and in team fights, especially against ranged champions. Try to be less passive in your lane, and use Decimate at its full range when you can, and as much as you can. Being too passive can lead to losing your lane or getting zoned. Some ideas for items that I did not put in the recommended build are Maul Malmortius, Aegis, Thornmail, Guardian Agent, Angel, and Last Whisper. But remember to always build to the enemy team. I'd like to thank you guys for watching. I hope this will help you play a better Darius or prompted you to go purchase him. If this helped you out in any way, or you have feedback, like, comment, and favorite the video. I come out with new tutorials every weekend, so subscribe if you want to stay informed. If you're wondering what Thunder Gaming League is, there will be a link down in the description below. We're basically here to help you game your best possible game, and to help you guys stay in the loop about events and patches. So if you want to learn more, go check them out. And this has been Course of Thought, and I'll see you guys next week with another tutorial.